Talk a little bit about sports you played as a kid and some of the accomplishments.
I always had a passion for sports. My first love was gymnastics. I grew up watching that ever since I can remember. And I came to my parents one day and I told them, I want to be a gymnast. And they're like, okay, that's awesome. But I grew up in a tiny town, so we didn't have gymnastics, but we had power tumbling. And essentially what power tumbling is, it's like the big floor in gymnastics, but instead of being a big square, it's a long strip, and you just tumble. So back handsprings, flips, twists, things like that. Also gave some other sports some love. I played basketball, volleyball, and softball. I competed against all able-bodied athletes. And, I think it was in my genes to be drawn to athletics. My one and only role model that I ever had as a child was Dominique Moceanu, the Olympic gymnast, part of the Magnificent Seven. That was the golden era for gymnastics, especially the Magnificent Seven. And I was no different from everybody else and drawn to them as a team, but in particular to Dominique Moceanu. So ironically enough, when I was 16 years old, I found out that my childhood idol was my biological sister. Dominique Moceanu was my biological sister. Definitely one of the most mind-blowing things you can ever hear. It's hard to wrap your head around. I think I still and forever will be in awe every day on some level that actually happened and that I'm actually living this life. I mean, I'm sitting next to my childhood idol, who's my sister, who's my idol. I mean, it's like, what's going on here, And I remember right after she met me in the airport and we went out to her car, sitting next to her in the front seat, and I literally had a out-of-body experience just for a second. It was as if I was just kind of viewing the situation, because I think it was information overload and I glitched. I just think for a minute I glitched. But it was awesome, And then when I met my younger sister, when she flew in, we were like twins. It was like looking in the mirror. We looked alike, we sounded alike, we liked the same foods, the same kind of guys, everything. It was mind-blowing. It still is mind-blowing. It's a totally different relationship than you have with brothers. So I think, my life definitely has changed in a way of just being maybe more rounded out, more fulfilled in a certain aspect of my life, and being able to have a relationship with sisters that I never was able to have. It's pretty cool, and being around people who have the same DNA as you is so cool, because I never got to see anybody who looked like me or had the same mannerisms, and that still to this day is so cool for me.
Can you describe to us what you're doing now, what an acrobat aerialist does?
Yeah, for the past 5 years I've been primarily performing professionally as an acrobat and an aerialist. Now what an acrobat is, the acrobat side is if you're tumbling or doing trampoline, anything there's flipping involved or essentially gymnastics, that's more of the acrobat side. And the aerialist side is, people usually relate to Cirque du Soleil when you see the silk fabric hanging and people are twisting and spinning and contorting inside of it. That's essentially what an aerialist is.
I saw your act described as floating above ground. Is that what it feels like?
I think when you're actually doing it, you're thinking about all the mechanics behind it, and then you're performing it as well. But, you have to, when you're performing it and you're actually in the air, you're making sure that your lock is right, your grip is right. When I'm performing with a partner, making sure that we're in sync and we're connected, and making sure that the function side of it is working, because that is how it, is to be made to look effortless.
What would you say was the best piece of advice you ever received, and from whom?
The best piece of advice is from my parents. It's very cut and dry. If you want to do something, do it. Put your mind to it and do it. Like, it's as simple as that. And I think that's the whole foundation of how I live and how I function. And only because of that advice and because of that way of thinking have I been able to achieve my dreams, to live the life that I want, to travel the world, to interact with people I never in my life would have met had I just stayed in that hometown with my comfortable life.